There's a lot of unused content in Garden Warfare 1 that needs to be restored, but the main thing that people think about is the Gravedigger class. This was originally going to be the healer class for the zombie team before they replaced it with the scientist. After the alpha for Garden Warfare 1 was found, I decided to take it upon myself to try and recreate Gravedigger in Garden Warfare 1. This will be using the original model that was found in early versions of Garden Warfare 1, along with the weapons that were left over in that build as well. So with all that out of the way, I think we should just get straight into it. The first thing I need to do is figure out what animations I want Gravedigger to use, since he doesn't have any left over in the game. Now, the alpha version of Garden Warfare 1 has his model using Browncoat's skeleton, which means he's using Browncoat's animations, which makes me think it might be better off using the Browncoat skeleton as opposed to Scientist, since obviously Scientist has a lot more animations that are more catered towards a mad scientist as opposed to a Browncoat that is more generic. So I got the model for Gravedigger, I rigged it to Browncoat, and I put it in Garden Warfare 1, and this is how it ended up looking. The animations he has in the booth is just the regular Browncoat ones, but when you spawn him in game it uses the flag zombie animation since he holds his arm forward, which is helpful for the gun. So far the Gravedigger model is starting to feel really authentic to the original concept art for the character, along with the poses that were on Golden Wang's page. Now, in the early versions of Garden Warfare 1 there was a bunch of sound effects for Gravedigger left over, so I wanted to take those sound effects and implement them into the mod so Gravedigger has his proper voice back. Now I wanted him to have a weapon very similar to what was left over in early builds of Garden Warfare 1, so I opened up the alpha and I copied all the stats over from the weapon that was in that to the one in Garden Warfare 1 that I've got. The bullet trail is taken from Battlefield 3, but it was left over in Garden Warfare 1 and was being used by the Gravedigger's projectile, so I implemented it in, but it didn't really look very good. So I went to Tony, who helped me out with the Garden Warfare 1 mods that I developed in the past, and he changed up the effects for me to look a lot better, and it ended up coming out really well. One of the main things in Garden Warfare 1 is its ability to customise each of the characters in the game, so I thought why not give Gravedigger this option as well. So I made it so he could remove his hat, his hair, and add facial hair to the character. Now I wanted to go and change up the effects for the muzzle on the character, since at the minute it was just using one taken from the scientist. So I got an effect in the game that was really nice. It was taken from the metal petal, and I gave it to Gravedigger, and this is how it looked. The original weapon for Gravedigger does have a muzzle effect assigned to it, but the problem is all of the things for it are just completely removed in the current day version of Garden Warfare 1. These effects are placeholders left from Battlefield 3 since it's not in the _PVZ folder, meaning it's just a Battlefield 3 leftover. But the problem is we can't take files from the 360 version of Garden Warfare 1 and import them into the current PC build of the game. And we also can't open up Battlefield 3 with Frosty since it's made on Frostbite 2 and not Frostbite 3. It seems like there's no way to get these effects since they're all stranded on older versions of games that we cannot access the files of. But it turns out that Battlefield 3 is not the last Battlefield game that was made, and there was one made just after being Battlefield 4 that uses Frostbite 3, so we're able to open it up in Frosty and take a look in the files to try and find what we need. And as you can see right there, the effects are used in Battlefield 4, so I extracted all of the emitters and the effect and the textures and tried to put it in Garden Warfare 1, and it crashed. It didn't work at all, because Garden Warfare 1 with Frosty is incredibly unstable, so for now these effects are just unseen to us, but I do have a good idea on how it looks, and the effect I picked for the muzzle looks pretty similar anyway. Now Battlefield 4 isn't going to be completely useless to us since I am going to use it for something useful later on, but for now I wanted to work on something else, and that would be his abilities. Since obviously he is a character class in the game, he needs abilities and we can't just give him scientist because he is meant to have different stuff. And that would be the arm grenade, which still has stuff left over in Garden Warfare 1 since I wanted to convert it to be a scientist ability instead. The idea of this ability is that Gravedigger throws down some sort of hand with a dynamite attached to it and it crawls towards a plant and then explodes. There's effects left over for the arm grenade when it was a scientist ability, so I decided to take a look at it and see if I could get it working in the game now, and it works. So as you can see here, this is the arm grenade effect we'll be using. I made a mod a while back for Garden Warfare 2 that recreated the arm grenade for a Gravedigger class I was adding to that game. So I wanted to take the ideas that I used for the mod in Garden Warfare 2 and make it in Garden Warfare 1 using the same methods. So the ability itself will be based off an exploding imps AI since it runs towards a plant and then explodes, which is just what we want. But the issue is the model. Obviously I can't just rig it to an imp, it won't look right. And the version that I made in Garden Warfare 2 is rigged over a Citron since it walks like a spider, which is obviously not in Garden Warfare 1. But I wanted to start off by making a spawning ability for him that just spawns in a traditional exploding imp, and then we'll work from there and make the model. So I made the ability spawn an exploding imp, but I made it so it uses the explosion from the arm grenade so we can see how it will look once it's finished. Now there was multiple different characters I was thinking about rigging the arm grenade to. First of all I was thinking Sunflower, then I thought Chomper, but then Tony suggested that I rig it to the pea shooter since he tends to scuttle around a bit more. So I opened up Garden Warfare 2 to test this, and I put the model over the pea shooter and it looked quite nice. Obviously it needs a bit of polish, but the idea of using pea shooter for the arm grenade is clearly working. So I finished off the model, added dynamite to it and everything, and then I decided to put it in Garden Warfare 1, and this is how it looks. So with the arm grenade finished for the moment, it was time to go back and look at the Gravedigger's primary weapon since he still doesn't have custom sound effects. I was thinking since Gravedigger's weapon has placeholder effects from Battlefield 3, it's possible that his weapon was taken from that game and put into Garden Warfare 1. And if he was using a placeholder weapon from Battlefield 3, it would mean that he has sound effects from that game too. I went through all the different shotguns in Battlefield 3 to see if any of them match Gravedigger's stats from Garden Warfare 1, and the closest weapon I could find was the M1014 shotgun. On screen is an image of a video that I found that goes over this shotgun from Battlefield 3. I'm going to take the stats from Gravedigger's weapon and compare it to these to show how it's quite similar. I'm going to try and speedrun all of it because I don't want to waste your time. So let's go.
Now there's two weapons for the Gravedigger, there's the Grave Shotgun and the Grave Gat Gun. The Grave Gat Gun is identical to the Grave Shotgun with only a few minor changes to the stats as you can see on screen, but the M1014 has 5 ammo and the Grave Shotgun's only got 3, but then the Grave Gat Gun has 5, which makes me think it's an older version of the weapon. The rate of fire for the Grave Shotgun's a lot higher, so rather 1, it's been an altered stat, or 2, I might be wrong on this being an M1014, but the reload time is quite similar between the two weapons, with the only difference being that the Grave Shotgun reloads the whole magazine instead of just single shells, but this is mainly just because of the case that Garden Warfare doesn't have shells in it. And the damage numbers are completely different, but once again this could be an altered stat, or I just might be wrong on this being an M1014. And this weapon is also in Battlefield 4, which means I can open it up in Frosty Editor and see the different stats that it has. Now Frostbite games use weapon dispersion as a way to determine where the different pellets when you shoot a shotgun will go, and both Gravedigger and the M1014 use this, so we're able to compare the stats of those to see what's different. Now in Garden Warfare 1, the Grave Shotgun uses a weapon dispersion of 2.2 for its spread, and in Battlefield 4, the M1014 has a 2.4 spread. Now this isn't too reliable, but it is quite similar to the Grave Shotgun's dispersion, so it is possible that they just altered the stats between Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4. What I found quite interesting as well is that this weapon changes the rate of fire from 200 to 210 from Battlefield 3 to Battlefield 4, so it might be the case they also changed the weapon dispersion too.
So with all of that covered now, I think you can understand why I want to use the M1014 sound effects for the Gravedigger's shotgun in this mod. And this is what it sounds like when it's used in game. I do also want to quickly mention that I've built this mod off of Beast Dwarf's private play mod for Garden Warfare 1 to make it easier to play against bots in this game. But now it's time to recreate one of the other abilities left over in Garden Warfare 1, which is called the Healing Gravestone. When it comes to how the ability works, it will work the same as the heal station in Garden Warfare 1 currently, but it's going to have its own unique model to fit the whole Healing Gravestone aesthetic, so I had to come up with different ideas on how it would look. So I started out by drawing up the best piece of concept art you've ever seen for anything ever, and this is the base of what I'm going to be doing. I was following the concept art I made pretty closely, and you can see here how it ended up looking. It wasn't really coming out very well, and it just looked kind of bad. So I decided to go back and base it off some concept art for the Gravedigger that was found for Garden Warfare 1, where it's a tombstone, it has his head on the top, that was meant to be used as a totem when he dies, but it can also be used here. So I redesigned the tombstone and I put Gravedigger's head on the top, and you can see here how it ended up looking. So I wanted to try and make it so the head was actually stone instead of just being his regular head, so it's like the full tombstone is modelled after the Gravedigger instead of just being his head. And as you can see here, this is how it came out once I finished it all. So I did a bit of polish to the model and also added a little hand coming out of the ground that holds a heal station, and I put it in Garden Warfare 1 and this is how it came out. So I didn't really know what ability to give this character after these two since I was just going off what was left over in the files. So I was thinking maybe some type of warp, because the concept art has him doing some sort of warp and it kind of fits with the whole scientist theme. So I decided to take the cheesy warp that I was already using for the character and reskin it to fit the Gravedigger theme. I put it in the game and this is how it looked. I also gave some icons for the different abilities too, but you can see it's got a different sound effect and also a different visual effect too. I was set to call this a complete kit for the character, but then Tony mentioned that we should use the Grave Gatling that was left over in the early Garden Warfare 1 build as an ability instead, since there's only 4 abilities for Gravedigger left over in the files, and the Grave Gatling's one of them. I don't know why at no point until now I thought the Grave Gatling should really be an ability for this character, but whatever, we're going to start working on it and it's not going to be very fun. You see, I made the Grave Gatling as an ability for my Gravedigger variant that I added in my other mod for Garden Warfare 2, which was a lot easier because it was built off Scientist. Obviously this one's built off Brown Coat, which is going to cause a lot of complications with this. The idea is when you use the weapon, it will apply a mesh to the character's gun that will give it the effect that it's a full Gatling gun instead of the regular shotgun. Now this is a lot easier in Garden Warfare 2 because it was using a proper weapon burn, but the model that I've made for Garden Warfare 1 is using a right hand prop burn, which for some reason I can't apply meshes to. With all that covered, I'm now going to show you all the different tests that I did to try and get the model working. You can see here it's already off to a really good start. I messed around with the position of the model a bunch and I managed to get it looking like it's actually attached to the gun, but then when you move around it just attaches. I managed to make it look somewhat okay, and the muzzle effect kind of hides a lot of the inaccuracies with it. But the main problem is when you move around, the gun just goes all the way down, so it doesn't look right anymore. So my idea was to make it so the character slows down while you shoot the weapon, so it kind of disguises it a bit more, as you can see. With all of the abilities complete, I wanted to go and add something else to the mod to make it so it feels like Gravedigger is really an official character in the game. And this would be changing different icons and stuff, such as the ones in the booth, and also a sticker book entry. I started out by giving him a custom spotting icon that's taken from an early version of Garden Warfare 1, as you can see on screen here. Then I changed all the icons for the customization so it actually looks like Gravedigger now, and it makes it feel a lot more official. Then I made it so he has a custom sticker book entry replacing the Scientist, with different icons for his upgrades as well. Finally I made it so on the end screen of a Team Vanquish game you can see Gravedigger in the zombie pile instead of Scientist. Now there is a few things in this mod I wasn't able to get working, such as getting the character to have the kill ding that all of the other classes have in the game. I tried multiple different things to get the kill ding to apply, but it just wasn't working. In the gameplay though, I'll edit in the kill ding just for your satisfaction, since I know the kill ding is quite nice to hear. But speaking of the gameplay, since everything is now finished for the character, I think it is time we move on to the gameplay. So yeah, thanks for watching this main part of the video, let's get on to the gameplay. If you want to download the mod for yourself, the link will be in the description below. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope to see you all in the next one.